Lords, ladies, and peasants alike, we are back with some Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, as Warhorse Studios has just dropped their first paid DLC, the Brushes with Death DLC, alongside a pretty large patch, patch 1.3, which comes with not only a host of fixes and improvements, but also some new free content. Going to go over both the DLC and the general update in today's video, chapter markers below, and let's start right off with the Brushes with Death DLC. Part of this DLC is, of course, the new storyline, and the devs did give us a little spoiler-free description of what to expect here. Henry encounters a quirky painter who draws him into a web of intricate plans, pushing his skills to its limits and finding solutions. In a series of quests spanning both the maps of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2's world, Henry must find, persuade, and sometimes eliminate a host of familiar and unfamiliar characters to help his new friend complete the most important painting of his life. Discover the answers to the many questions that surround this mysterious character. Who and what is he? How does he know so much? And why does he carry around a painted human skull? Now, to start this new quest line, you'll have to have completed the For the Whom the Bell Tolls quest, which, if you don't remember or perhaps have not played it yet, I know some of you spent like 50 hours in the game before even doing the wedding quest. Well, this quest is the 6th quest in the main storyline, which is about halfway through the Trotsky region's main storyline content, not far at all in the scope of the game. Now, after you have completed this quest, this purple shield icon that has a red skull on it will pop up on your map southwest of Trotsky Castle, and this is where you'll begin your new adventure.
Tried everything, you know. It's hopeless.
If you're someone who has completed the game's main storyline or are currently just working through the second map, you could keep playing on those playthroughs. All you have to do is look for the wagon icon on the west side of the Kuttenberg map and ask the coachman to take you to the Trotsky region for 200 groschen. Fellow YouTuber Neon Knight told me that it took him around 8 hours to complete everything in the DLC, while IGN reported about 12, so I think you're looking between 8 to 12 hours of new content related to this storyline. Brushes with Death also comes with some new unique weapons and armor related to this new storyline, and you get the option to create your own unique designs on any shield you choose. With this new shield painting feature, which you get access to through the new painter character, there are over 100 shield designs in total to choose from, and some of these need to be unlocked by completing specific quests and achievements throughout the game in its entirety. So some of the shield designs are not even tied specifically to just the DLC storyline alone. It's the game in its entirety. You can see some more shield footage over on Neon Knight's channel as he dropped a review of the DLC and went over all of this. All right, moving on to the free patch 1.3 for anyone who owns Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. You do not have to have the DLC to have this patch. And the patch does actually come with some new content. A fresh patch has arrived. This update brings a host of fixes and improvements across quests, combat, performance, and more, along with the exciting addition of horse racing. Read on for the full list of changes. I'll leave a link to the patch notes below. But for horse racing, all you have to do is go to the Nomads camp in the Trotsky region, so you can access this very, very early on in your run. And there you get to prove your skills in cross-country races and also mounted archery competitions. So over here in the Nomads camp, you'll notice 2 new activity givers here. And the guy to the southwest is the mounted archery guy. And over here is the horse racing guy named Mikolai.
Hey, do you want to race horses?
And both of these characters actually have a decent amount of dialogue, at least initially, when you talk to them. And they even get into a dispute with each other, and you're kind of in the middle of it. It's kind of funny. Henry always gets in the middle of everything, even things that have nothing to do with him. But after you entertain them a little bit, you'll start their quests, and you'll get access to their mini games. And this is Bibrek the Archer. The horse racing is more than just racing around a predetermined track. In fact, there is no predetermined track. The NPC will place several checkpoints on your map, and you have to go through these checkpoints. A little bit more risky. But you have to go through all the checkpoints and then return to the starting checkpoint. And if you're the first one to do that, you'll of course win, and you can win money just like in mounted archery. You can place bets and your reputation will be affected and all that good stuff. For horse racing, there's 3 different difficulties to choose from. So if you are early on in the game and your horse doesn't have great stats, maybe you don't really understand the horse riding mechanics that much, you're probably going to be playing on the easier difficulties. But as you get better, you can always return here and face against harder opponents. For the mounted archery, it's basically a similar concept here. You can bet to make money, and there's different courses here with different targets that are easier and harder to hit, and the more advanced you get, the more harder challenges you can try. And you basically kind of run around a track, and most of the time you're just going to set your horse to just follow the track automatically, and you'll just be shooting the targets as you pass them by. And of course, earlier on in the game, like you can see my Henry right here in the trial course, I'm super shaky and it's extremely difficult. But as you become more powerful and get better perks for archery, etc., it's going to become easier for you and you can take on harder challenges. So yeah, 2 new mini games here accompanied with some new quests and new dialogue content, and I think it's a nice free addition to the game, and all these immersive sim type activities fit so well with this type of open world RPG. As you can see, there's a lot more to this patch. I'm going to scroll down here to the quest section because I'm not going to read all these, but just want you guys to see here. Look at how many quests here have received improvements and fixes. We just go through this list right here. So many quests in this game, and the list just doesn't end here. So if you're having problems with certain quests, with bugs, etc., hopefully your problem has been fixed. But I am going to read everything before all of the quest specific fixes here, so you don't have to watch the video anymore. Just use your ears. This should probably take, I don't know, 5 minutes maybe. And let's begin. So for alchemy, more drying racks have been added. An issue with incorrect number of potions in the codex has been fixed. Glitching animations have been fixed. Black powder container models have been fixed. They have modified the special ingredient models and modified cameras. For animals, Warhorse has fixed the movements of fireflies and butterflies and improved the movements of cows. Probably the most important part of this patch. For balancing changes and improvements, Warhorse has rebalanced the difficulty of enemies to make the Kuttenberg region a bit more challenging. So that's important to note, and I think that's probably a good choice in my opinion, as the further you get in this game, the more powerful you get, and it can start to lose some of its challenge. A lot of players, at least I know, agree with that. Warhorse has adjusted difficulty of bandits at various points of interest. They've added some previously unobtainable item variants to shops and locations. They've adjusted stat influence of the drunkenness effect, rebalanced horseshoe prices, removed the slowing effect of the bane poison. Bows have been rebalanced. I'm not exactly sure what that means because there's no specifics here, but I'll definitely be messing around with some bows. There should now be fewer drunk people in towns. Warhorse has fixed incorrect alcohol amount in wine. Generally, slightly rebalanced alcohol overall. They have improved the diversification in shops with clothing, armor, and shoes. They've improved the diversity of goods at blacksmiths and swordsmiths in the Kuttenberg region. They've increased shop prices in Kuttenberg. That's important to note. Increased the difficulty of robbing merchants, rebalanced raw meat spoil time, rebalanced shop inventories in Sigismund's camp. For the barber, they've improved barber animation sounds. They've fixed one barber missing in the game entirely if the player loaded the game for the first time since updating to version 1.2 on a playline that had the quest A Good Scrub already completed. So that has been fixed. For caravans, Warhorse has fixed an issue where wagons would pass through NPCs in a dialogue happening on the road. I've seen that a few times. For combat, they have fixed a UI element not notifying the player that they cannot reload in current state or place. They fixed inconsistent levels of zoom when aiming crossbows between different display aspect ratios, and fixed issues related to the combat opponent asking for mercy while performing a combo. For combat training, Warhorse has fixed a soft lock caused by a drunk blackout. They fixed the player being able to reach the final duel without a weapon equipped. They improved collisions of the training arena in the Devil's Den and improved reactions in the combat tutorial with Tomcat. So that's good. For controls, drawing melee weapons and crouch is now disabled if the player is in an area with a ceiling too low to stand up. They fixed problems related to asking for directions during hardcore mode and activating an interactor before the map being opened. And they fixed controller vibration when carrying a woman's corpse. For crime, a tutorial has been added to warn about the consequences of sleeping in someone else's bed. That's probably pretty nice. I think a lot of players get in trouble with that. They have adjusted when mutt attacking people is considered a crime. Humans that players meet and fight on the road won't surrender anymore. They fixed an issue with guards knowing the player's location upon discovering a broken lock on a pillory. Fixed an issue with the crime of killing hens sometimes not being attributed to player. Fixed stuck trespass warning icon in Kuttenberg. Fixed the trespass area in the Sukdol Tavern. They improved crime icon indications, improved crime reaction of NPCs in Kuttenberg, improved guard sleeping behavior, rebalanced stats for shop guards in Kuttenberg, reduced the severity of NPC reactions to sleeping in someone else's bed. So 2 things involving players that choose to sleep in a bed that is not their own. For daily life, they added ownership to items in the Huntsman Hut in Opatowitz. They fixed trespass being active during open hours in the cellar part of the tavern, fixed an issue where sellers would sometimes leave their door unlocked and opened upon ending their shift and going to the tavern. Guards will now have their crossbows drawn when standing still. Modified innkeeper Wayman's day cycle so he doesn't enter the trespass area during work time. Modified RPG stats for huntsmen and gamekeepers. Set up more NPCs in Troskovitz to go lie down and heal when hurt. Fixed weird animations and gestures of drunk NPCs holding a lantern, and adjusted contents of cauldrons around Kuttenberg to fit better with the social classes of people eating out of them. For dice, Warhorse has added a dice player to the taverns in Devil's Den, Miskovitz, and Suchdol, and to the Emperor Charles Tavern in Kuttenberg, so more opportunities to play dice. For the environment, they fixed missing collision on railing at Suchdol Castle, improved LOD distance at the Emperor Charles Inn, polished various collisions and locations causing unenjoyable combat around Grund, Kuttenberg, Old Kutna, Opatowitz, Sigismund's Camp, Suchdol, and Vricklitz. I don't know how to pronounce that town. Removed the placeholder repair kit from inside of the gunmaker's shop in Kuttenberg. Added a door lock for the blacksmith in Sukdol. Improved collisions on the lake and river by Malishov. Fixed missing door interactor for the player's room at the Takov blacksmith. Fixed rain inside the Trotsky castle. About time. Improved anvil height at the Devil's Den. For equipment and maintenance, bathhouse owners and repairmen will now properly react to the player being branded. For fast travel, they fixed fast travel on horseback being slower than on foot. I didn't even know that was a thing. Fixed the player sometimes being able to travel to an undiscovered fast travel point. In hardcore mode, they fixed missing translations for French and Italian languages in the perk selection screen. For horse riding, fixed a problem with horse twitching when approaching a trough, fixed various paths not allowing horse magnetism in the Trotsky region, modified horse behavior for places with speed limits, polished FOV, field of view, during horse riding, and removed horse speed limit in Bilany, Miskovitz, and Raborsch. For horse trading, they fixed an issue with displaying item icons during horse purchase dialogue, fixed players' horse ownership after a save/load, and fixed an issue where horses purchased in Samin would keep returning to Samin when the player traveled from the Kuttenberg region to the Trotsky region. For lockpicking, they adjusted difficulty when using controllers, so that's important to note. For music, they improved music choice around the Kuttenberg church and cemetery. Mutt. They fixed Mutt's weird movement when continuously calling him to heal, fixed mismatch in Mutt's obedience stat being displayed in the sidekick part of the inventory, and they polished animations of Mutt fetching a hare. Fixed an issue where Mutt would sometimes attack the player. For random events, they fixed horses of NPCs in various random events, sometimes remaining standing still in the middle of the road without a rider. Fixed player not waking up on the ground after drinking with the celebrating father in a random event. Fixed a prompt without proper text when talking to Ridley Barley. And a contest resulting in a tie will no longer be a win for the player in the shooting competition in the random event camps. For reading, they fixed blinking text issues. For reputation, NPCs familiar with Henry will now properly address him by name if he comes to see them. I like little details like that being fixed up and improved. For room renting, they fixed a problem with locked doors in rented rooms in the Hangman's Halter in Kuttenberg, fixed a problem with locked door in rented room in Malishov, fixed broken trespass in rented room in Old Kutna, and fixed the unlocked guest room in the Zhelyov Inn. For skill trainers, they fixed an issue where skill teacher icons could point to a dead NPC. They removed the skill teacher icon in situations when the teacher no longer has anything left to teach. That's also nice. For skills and perks, they fixed an issue where upon loading a play line on newer patches, invalid point of interest markers could appear in the map filters. Fixed the Explorer's perk staying active when starting a new game. Fixed the Die Hard perk cooldown being shorter than intended, so that's good. The effects of the Head Start perk now has a 2-minute cooldown, and they increased the Sandman perk's effect. We're almost done here. For UI, they added a short fader when opening inventory for smoother transition from the game world. For miscellaneous, they fixed the classification of honey and eggs for the purpose of statistics, fixed dialogue logic with Troskovit's innkeeper Betty. Holes dug by the player will now stay dug out after a level switch. Improve structure and logic in Brabant's lore dialogues, improve physics of clothes of characters on horseback, fix consistency issues with shoes being able to be worn under the same plate leg armors, fixed an issue causing some soldiers to not properly switch to ragdoll when killed, fixed a partly missing voiceover for a general store seller in the Jewish quarter. And lastly, we have a platform specific category. For PS5, they fixed an issue where quitting the game using the save and quit option could freeze the game indefinitely. I definitely heard of some players running into that issue. And then 3 fixes for Xbox. Audio being audible even with the volume set to 0 has been fixed. The issue where the PlayOn help website could not be opened has been fixed. And also they have fixed several issues with save files sometimes becoming invalid when owning the Golden Edition. And the rest, everything here is of course highly quest specific here. So if you're having an issue with a quest and you're waiting, just click on the patch notes below. I'll leave a link below and see if your quest is on here. Hopefully it is fixed. But yeah, pretty big patch here. Of course, the patch is free. The update does cost $30 US. I'm going to be jumping into it probably tonight live on this YouTube channel as well as over on Twitch at WolfheartFPS. Super excited. This is one of my favorite games of all time. Hands down. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.